morning. Welcome on this bleak and cold day in Hamburg. I'm glad you all made it here. It was very slippery on my way over. I'm glad I'm here. But I'm also very happy to be here. It's great to see the CouchDB community come together here, and I hope you have a great day. I'll be talking about the state of the union of CouchDB to explain what's going on, has been going on, will be going on, to give you a frame for the rest of the day. I started out with, my name is Jan, of course. I started out using CouchDB in 2006, as Andy said, and that kind of feels like forever ago. It's been a while.
Sorry.
That's all right.
A reminder, I planned that before.
Anyone else? Well, wait, let me check. I'm fine, thanks. When we started out, we made a database that was storing JSON and HTTP. In 2006, that sounded very peculiar. Everybody who did databases laughed at us, maybe rightfully so. But the years have shown that CouchDB itself is useful, and a lot of other projects have also embraced JSON and HTTP as interfaces. So we've pioneered a bunch of stuff, and that's quite cool. We had a bit of a rough year in 2012. You may or may not be aware. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And we have a bit of a phoenix rises from the ashes kind of story since then, which is also very inspiring, I hope. We're the CouchDB. No, sorry. Let me see. Let's skip a bit of that. It's with great honor that I'm before you to tell you about CouchDB. Let's start in 2012, which is now 3 years ago, which kind of seems outdated. The last time I gave a similar talk was in 2014, so it's just 2 years, but now 3 years is very long. So the next iteration of this talk will not start in 2012, I promise, but you have to go through this for one more time. 2012 was not a good year for CouchDB. CouchDB's inventor left publicly. 2 high-profile projects that were using CouchDB wrote long blog posts while they moved away from CouchDB, both for good reasons, but that kind of left the impression that kind of CouchDB was dead. Nobody was using it anymore. The inventor goes away, there's other stuff now, so what the hell? The last release was over a year ago. The website was still partying in 1999. It was a bleak situation. The project got together, a bunch of people in this room as well, and thought, what can we do? Because we still cared about CouchDB, we knew there were people using it, we were using it, we wanted to do a project. So we thought, maybe we can write a blog post, a letter, a press release that says, CouchDB is not dead yet. That's not a good headline. Right? That's not a good PR strategy. So instead, we thought, we'll just buckle down, work our asses off, ship stuff, and then the world will see through releases, through stuff happening in the community, that CouchDB is still alive. So we started out with a new website that we stole from / worked with from the Apache Cordova team. So we had a new website. We coincided that with the 1.2 release, which was the first release in 18 months at that point, which was had major stuff in it, which was good. We changed how the project works. We worked on a faster release cycle, and then gradually changed everything under the hood of how we're working with the CouchDB. 2013 showed the results of this, and I'm setting you up for graphs that go up and to the right. Prepare for graphs that go up and to the right. Well, the first metric that I'm looking at is the number of committers to the CouchDB project, the people who actually write the code and put it in and make sure it all works. We doubled them in 2013. We changed the policy of how to get involved with CouchDB. Turns out a lot of people want to do that. We doubled in 2013, and we have way more now. We have interesting. In 2013, we had more commits to the project than in any other year before, and 3 times as many as in 2012. And we shipped 8 releases in a single year instead of 1 in 18 months. 2013 was a good year for CouchDB. You know the marketing trick where you don't show the numbers if they're not good? So there isn't any graphs for 2014, but I'll explain why that happens later. This is called building suspense. To find a theme to explain 2014, I looked at what is a core tenet of the Apache Software Foundation. So CouchDB is part of the Apache Software Foundation, which is a non-profit organization that exists to build and produce and support open source software. One of its core mantras is community over code, which means it is more important to have the right people care about software, and they will come up with the right software and the way to run it and do it, than having a few people who are really, really good, but they can't work with other people. That's less important. So 2014 kind of can be summed up in this. There's technical stuff that has happened that I'll talk about in a bit, but this is also very important, and Andy talked about this before. For the first time in ever, CouchDB, the open source project, got a code of conduct that codifies how we work together, what kind of behavior we expect from each other, what happens if certain behavior occurs that is not according to the code of conduct. There were clear guidelines. Secondary, we have a diversity statement. We looked at our community, we doubled the committers, but we were predominantly white male, upper class kind of people. While there's nothing wrong with them, and everyone here, having some people have short beards and other people have long beards is not diversity. We believe building software is an act of representation. We want to build software for the largest possible audience, and that is only possible if we get input from all the groups that are out there that help build CouchDB. So we put out a diversity statement that says that it especially reaches out to women in tech, people of color, the LGBTQ community, people of lower social and economic status. And there are various programs in the works to get more of these people involved with CouchDB. Nothing to report yet, but we're working on it. And lastly, sorry, this is the most boring part of the thing. No, I hope you're excited about this as well. Is the bylaws. And when I started when something goes on in CouchDB, I kind of know how it goes. We make a new release, I know what we're doing. There's a security issue being reported, I know what we have to do. We want to have a new committer, these things happen. For someone who's new to CouchDB, they maybe have to learn that through seeing it a few times. By writing, the bylaws explain everything we do in the project, the way it works, all the mechanics. When we do a release, here's the process. When there's a new committer, here's the process. So whenever we deviate from that process, anyone, not just people who've been around forever, can say, hey, the project agreed on working like this. We didn't do this here. Why did this happen? Can we do this? This is really important for accountability. If I'm around so long, a lot of people think, well, I know everything and what I do is right. That is rarely true if you look at what I'm doing. But if you're new to the project, there's, oh, Jan's been with CouchDB forever. What he does is right, and there's no, I don't want to interfere with that. With the bylaws, they can just look at the list, did I follow the process? And if I didn't, they can yell at me for good reasons, and that makes the project better, and that gets them more involved, that allows them to do their thing a little bit more, and it keeps us, the existing project members, or the old ones, accountable for our actions, that we actually do the things that are incongruent with this. And that's actually, the accountability is actually something that goes through all these three documents, that we know what happens if the community doesn't work, we know what happens when we want to do one of the process, and we kind of want to embrace a larger audience with CouchDB. All this to make it more comfortable for people to join the community, to be more effective within the community, to do the right thing, or to do what they think is right to advance CouchDB. One of the results of this whole discussion, which may not be a linear progression in time, it's timey-wimey, is the creation of a marketing group. So we have a mailing list where people come together that talk about marketing. Who is interested in marketing? Well, a few people, at least, that's great. Good, I wasn't expecting any hands. To make your point, it is useful for the CouchDB project that people think about, what's the slogan? What could be a better logo? There is a journalist that's interested in writing about CouchDB. Maybe we can do an interview. There are industry analysts that want to comment on certain events in the industry, and maybe CouchDB has a role there, so we can brief them, have calls with them. We can think about the website and all that kind of stuff that doesn't have to do with code, but gets CouchDB into more people's hands, gets the word out. And there's some people on there that are programmers and they also work on CouchDB, but there's also people who they're just marketing people and they do fantastic work for the project. And I'm really happy to see that as a growing up of a project that it does that. Another thing that we're doing is the weekly news. Who's a fan of the weekly news? All hands up. This fundamentally changed how I see CouchDB. So it is a weekly blog post that just has a bunch of sections that shows what's going on in the project, what's going on the web that has to do with CouchDB, a bunch of other fun links, Stack Overflow questions, all that kind of stuff. And while I thought I roughly knew what's going on in the CouchDB ecosystem, when I started reading the weekly news, I know there's very little I know that's going on in the CouchDB ecosystem. And this again shows more people what's going on. People can see what the project is doing. That there actually is momentum in the project. When people like the meme of CouchDB is not really a project anymore is still lingering out there, and people can like point at the weekly news. Every day, every week, there's 3 pages worth of stuff going on in the CouchDB ecosystem. This is something good. I don't know if Lena is here yet. I hope. Okay, but she may be here later. So give her a big thumbs up for the weekly news. We kind of stole them from OpenOffice, and then OpenStack started using them, all Apache projects. We did something similar at Hoodie, and now we're doing it at CouchDB, and now the ASF is doing it, and it's a quite interesting project to see that other people see that as useful stuff in an open source project that doesn't have anything to do with code. All right, so after we covered marketing, which is everybody's pastime, we go into the next section. Business, which is also really relevant to everyone. Who's interested in business? A few more people. Cool, excellent. So for the first time in forever, this is a priority within the project, or a thing that we're concerned with. Cloudant, a long-time contributor to the project, sponsor of this event. Thank you very much. All around great people. Database as a service vendor built on Apache CouchDB technology, has been bought by IBM last year. So one of the most respected companies, one of the biggest companies in IT, is betting on Apache CouchDB technology. That's tremendous. That's like, if you had any doubt that CouchDB is useful, that is validating it. Then also last year, IBM and Apple have announced a deal to do where Apple wants to have iOS Enterprise stuff, but doesn't want to do it. And IBM also wants iOS Enterprise stuff and wants to do it, so they partnered up that IBM is doing all the shitty work, and Apple collects all the shitty money. And the part of that deal was the acquisition of Cloudant, the bringing in of the CouchDB technology, especially Cloud Local, to make that available to Apple. That was part of like 2 of the biggest names in the industries for decades are partnering up, and stuff that we're doing is relevant to them. I'm really happy about this. It's really, really cool. A few other interesting things that are going on that I want to mention. You may have heard of NPM. Anybody does not know what NPM is? All right, the node package manager, of course. It's tremendously successful. At the core, it's just CouchDB, which is really nice. It's growing it's very successful. Let's leave it at that. And they love CouchDB, and it's again a very nice validation for the project. Another thing that's interesting from CouchDB, when I started the talk, it's like we started with JSON and HTTP, and everybody laughed. No, both Postgres and MySQL have native JSON data types and HTTP interfaces, or they may be in the works. Some of them are shipping already. So who's laughing now? Actually, nobody's laughing. Everybody gets better technology, and that's kind of what this is all about. Other databases see what's useful, like the changes feed is really useful, so they're adding that. The in-browser indexed DB, which is a web standard built into now every mobile and desktop browser, has been specifically designed to accommodate things like CouchDB in the browser. I'll be talking about that in a second. So what we have been doing in the past years is influencing the industry and helping everybody build better software, use better software, and I hope we can continue this into the future. This slide is intentionally left blank. My notes say that, it must be true. So we see 2012 wasn't that great, but CouchDB is on the up. There's business activity, there's marketing activity, a lot of community activity, there's lots of code coming. I'll talk about that, promise, in a bit. Before I get there, CouchDB is not alone. So CouchDB has an ecosystem. Specifically, these are implementations of the one thing that makes CouchDB special. Who wants to guess? What makes CouchDB special? What's the one thing what's why we're doing CouchDB? Who wants to venture a guess? Sorry? I still can't hear you.
Crash only.
Oh, the crash only design. That's not what I was looking for. That's a good point though.
Master replication.
Master replication is exactly what I was referring to. The synchronization, replication engine, whatever you want to call it. And kind of like in a network sense, it is only useful if you have participants that you can synchronize with or replicate to. And you can run CouchDB in a lot of places, but a few places you can't. For example, in the browser or on mobile devices, it's kind of tricky to run Erlang, while possible in some cases, maybe not very advised to do so. In the browser, definitely no Erlang. So CouchDB and TouchDB are two implementations of the CouchDB synchronization engine. I hope you all know this. CouchDB is in-browser JavaScript targeted for in-browser offline storage for web apps. TouchDB is kind of a nickname for a bunch of projects that run on mobile devices, especially iOS and Android. There's various flavors of this by various companies. But they allow us to synchronize data to even more places and bring data to people more efficiently, make data available offline, like all the benefits you know from CouchDB already. The one thing that's really interesting in this is that the whole synchronization story with CouchDB in the back end, with CouchDB and TouchDB on the devices or in front of the people. There are other people doing this kind of stuff, and there are big names, especially these big 5 names, all have backend as a service, offline first synchronization, the toolkits, offerings. There's iCloud from Apple, Microsoft has Azure Mobile Sync, Facebook has Parse, Google App Engine has something like this, Amazon has a mobile sync feature now. And so everyone is playing in this field, a lot of people are using this, but CouchDB and its ecosystem is the only open source solution that plays in this field. So while it is a little bit of a background technology, as databases go, we're never in the limelight. This is a very exciting time to be working on CouchDB and its ecosystem. We're in direct competition with the major players in the industry, and we have a very unique position there because we are the only ones that you can't run iCloud on your own machines, or you can run Azure on your own machines, or you have some sort of vendor login with any one of them. There's different degrees there, but open source allows you to take that whole solution and run it anywhere. And that empowers more people, reaches more people, creates more value, makes more people productive, and I think it's a really, really interesting thing. So, another blank slide. CouchDB is doing great as the project. We have a unique position in our ecosystem. What's next? Why didn't we have so many releases in 2014? What happened with the number of committers? Of course, we're working on CouchDB 2.0. It takes a lot of time, more than we've ever thought, as usual, as it is with big major releases, but we're hard working on it. Klaus is going to give a much more detailed introduction into CouchDB 2.0 as it stands today. I'll just give you a very high-level overview of why it's important. The number one feature, CouchDB features for 100. We talked to 200 CouchDB developers. What is the number one feature they think is in CouchDB 2.0? Of course, the cluster. No surprise. So CouchDB is actually an acronym or a backronym, and the C in CouchDB stands for cluster. In all of CouchDB's history up till now, there's no way to run CouchDB in a cluster natively. You always have to do some work, manage that nodes are running the right way, that you route traffic the right way, that you handle failover and capacity, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of work. A bunch of projects have tried to build this. The one that succeeded is a project called Big Couch, which is an open source release of the company CloudEnt, which they have graciously donated back to CouchDB itself. So we're putting back the C in CouchDB. You are able to run a bunch of machines that act as one, but have more capacity, have more fault tolerance, can handle higher loads than a single machine could ever do. And it does all the management for you. This is a very big deal for CouchDB. I hope you're all excited about that. Along with that, we have a better replicator. Actually, I kind of forgot what the actual improvements are, so I'm waiting for Klaus to tell you all about it. Sorry, Klaus. We have a better compactor. It creates smaller files that are faster to read, that has the overall process has less strain on I/O, so that's a lot better for CouchDB. Something we got from our couch is changes feed on views, and currently experimental because we're still dealing with a bunch of issues. And the thing that this obviously will power eventually is replicating from views, which will open up a whole new area of use cases for CouchDB, which is really cool. We have a new web UI. This is Futon, the old one. This has been a trusted companion since 2007, I think. You've all seen this. Well, like, when we started doing this, people used PHP-MyAdmin, and they liked it. And then we came around with the snazzy Ajaxy thing, and it came by default. You didn't have to install it; it just works. Like, Futon has been great for CouchDB's adoption, but it's run out its time. It's run its course. So, meet Photon. This is a heavily outdated screenshot. I apologize to all the Photon developers. But again, Klaus will probably show you some more later on. Also developed by CloudEnt, but as part of the open source project, CouchDB is now the new, it will be the new default admin interface for CouchDB 2.0. Lots of new features, easier to extend. It uses, well, again, like when we started, there wasn't a standard on how to do web applications. Now there are a bunch of standards, and we picked one of them, and standards, right? And that allows us to get more people who are interested in web development and CouchDB to contribute to CouchDB itself without having to learn a new Erlang. That's really nice. So we got a bunch of contributors just for Photon, which is really cool. Just last week, we accepted Mango at the Apache CouchDB Foundation, Apache CouchDB project, sorry. And Mango it's an acronym again. It stands for MongoDB Inspired Declarative Query Language, AMNGO. You clearly can see that, right? The goal here is to do queries in CouchDB, you write MapReduce functions. You all know this, you all have written them. If you want to do a little bit more funky stuff, you write reduce functions. And then there's this re-reduce thing that probably Bob explained to you on IRC that one night. But and he also told you to not worry about it and use one of the built-in functions, and it's kind of quirky, and people who come to CouchDB are either used to SQL or have seen MongoDB's query language. And IBM has built a module built on the foundations of CouchDB views that allows you, like if you've written MongoDB query stuff, you will know your way around the Mango querying stuff. It's not 100% compatible, but it is close enough that you know what's going on. We believe that going forward, this will be the default way for people to start interfacing with the CouchDB querying system. This tremendously simplifies everything. A bunch of smaller stuff. When we started out, there was also no standard for how to do Erlang applications, so we invented our own. Turns out when you try to get Erlang people to contribute to CouchDB, they had to learn the Erlang flavor of CouchDB. If you wanted to have contributors who don't know Erlang, you had to learn first Erlang and then the CouchDB flavor of Erlang to contribute to CouchDB. Rest assured, not many people followed that path. So CouchDB 2.0 is a major rework, including a lot of work from the rCouch project and Big Couch. And it now looks like a canonical Erlang project, and it makes it easier to contribute to CouchDB. Something that's also always important is testing, and we've always been very thorough about this, but we can't do enough testing, so we massively improved that as well. Something that's very dear to my heart is that CouchDB 1x is very simple to use, very straightforward, not many surprises when you once you get it going. Thank you, Debian packaging policy. But once it's going, it's really, really easy to use, and we kind of want to continue doing this with CouchDB 2.0. If we don't succeed, please let us know so we can fix it. CouchDB 2.0 will come in early 2015. Shoot, that's right now, so we hope we're going to do that in early 2015. We're working hard on it, as Robert said. We're going to meet tomorrow with all the developers to talk about more things to finally get a release going. We have a developer preview available already. You can find it on the website, play with it. We're probably going to play with it here as well and show you stuff. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. And I have 5 more minutes, so maybe we can do Q&A.
Sure.
Excellent. Right, questions? Yep, over there.
I was just wondering, you said something about replicating views. I just don't, I'm not sure I understand it exactly how that functions. If you could just give an example, maybe.
All right, say you have a database that has stuff for multiple users in them, and then you want to replicate stuff only from one user. What you could, for now, is write a filter function that will, when replicating, go through the whole database and not replicate everything from other users. If you have lots of users, there's a lot of processing going on that's not needed. When you have a view that lists all the documents in the database that are keyed by user, you have one group, it's indexed, it's easy to access, and then you can get a changes feed for just that section of the view, and that also means you can replicate just that section into a new database. So say you have a mobile client that is just single user and they want to replicate their own data from a single database. That's kind of the model there. Cool. More questions? Don't be shy. Yes.
Just give me a second.
Run, Andy, run.
I know it's not part of the CouchDB project, but I'm very interested in the concept of couch apps. And
Yes.
I'm rather disappointed about the state of couch apps. Couchapp.org domain is down, and there's no real tool, no standard tool. And I would just ask for your point on this, if you have any idea. I actually don't know what's going on. So.
All right. Do you want to join the project and fix all that?
Which project?
Well, good point, actually. So official policy is that the CouchDB project is adopting couch apps as a thing. The domain is stuck in domain transfer limbo, which is good fun. Don't talk to me after beers. Basically, it's like we need people to care about this and work on this, and I'm happy to give you a short intro of what the state is later, if you actually do care. Because if we need people to take it and run with it and do the right thing, because the current state is kind of, it lingers and there's a bunch of tools. I also have a personal opinion, but after more beers.
Get a beer now.
Hiya.
Hi.
There was a try or something with the plugins.
Yes.
Is that something we can expect, or I know there was some problems with security issues, how to install that and all that stuff. Maybe you can say more about
So, about 2 summers ago, I wrote a prototype for how to do plugins in CouchDB, and the idea was kind of like, you go into Futon, there's a new tab that says list of plugins, click on it, you see a list of plugins, and you can install them from right inside Futon. They would be downloaded, installed in your CouchDB, and then you add a new thing. Sounds great, right? Right, like browser extensions, but for your database. Sounds like a good idea. It's a good demo. It works okay for CouchDB 1x. CouchDB 2.0 changed a lot of assumptions about how CouchDB works, from how it's installed in the file system and how it's booted up and how you can augment this after it's installed, all the way up to how that we have to be aware that we're running in a cluster. So if you install a plugin, does it install on all the nodes? What if you have a really large cluster and a bunch of nodes are down? Can I install plugins, or is that failed? What's the nodes come back up? Is the plugin installed then? What if the registry that holds the plugin is down at that point? Like, lots of problems. That doesn't mean, so that means that the experiment is stalled out, I think. I don't think I'm going to be working on it. If somebody wants to take it and make it work for 1x, be my guest, but it's probably better to rethink how we can do it in a 2.0 context, because I still think it's a really, really good idea. Because for one, there's a lot of stuff in CouchDB that should probably be a plugin, as opposed to be core database functionality. So that it can be developed independently and maybe have better features. Yeah, it's a lot to cover. That's also something that I'm happy to talk about the details through today, if you want to do in a workshop.
So I would like to know how's your collaboration going with the Debian project, because I recognize that the couch packages are really old, and I think 1.4 is an experimental or something like this. So I was wondering why there was not current versions packaged as Debian packages, because from an administrative point of view, I'd like to have 2.0 soon, and maybe is there an idea to provide Debian packages from the project itself, or does other people need to do this?
Excellent question. So, long story. The dirty bits I will also keep for after beers. But so first, good news. The person one person who was feeling exactly like you was working on the 1.6.1 update for Debian, but then saw 2.0 came out, and he just thought maybe useful to figure that out first, because CouchDB 2.0 changes a lot of stuff to figure out how to get that going. So somebody's currently actively working on this. You can definitely use help if you want. The fundamental problem is that not just Debian, but everything else also has their own idea of how to package software. And Debian specifically, in particular, splits projects out where it's not really necessary, especially in the Erlang world, where the design of the whole software system is, here's one big blob that has everything it needs to run, so it's stable. They rip that apart and put it together with the possibility of having version mismatches. That is really, really hard to maintain for us. So there's a bit of butting heads of how to actually do that properly. So one of the things that, so in CouchDB 1, we've usually releasing like a configure make install kind of type of project that usually requires lots of auto tools. We've thrown all of that away. Everybody go yay. Auto tools is really, really horrible to work with. It does really great things, but it's really horrible to work with. So we're currently still figuring out how to do this for CouchDB 2.0. If you have opinions, let's talk. It's really good. Also, if you want to help, that's also really good. I think we're going to end up with shipping a tarball that then the packages need to figure out how to do, and we're happy to work with the packages to make the tarball in a way that it's conducive to being put into whatever packaging system is useful. But we've also thought about just having like, what are they called? Channel? Cask and Homebrew, what's the source, I think, right? Like having a CouchDB projects supported channel that just gives you the latest files from the project. That's definitely something we want to do. We actually want to go like hook that into our CI system so you get nightly builds through that. We don't have enough people to work on this, so if anyone is interested in that kind of stuff, I'm happy to give you an intro on how to do that. But yeah, that's an excellent idea. It would be fantastic for the project if we could just say add the source to whatever packaging system you have, and you just get the latest release with it, and everything's automated. That would be great. But yeah, it's yeah, a lot of work.
Who was first?
The one in the front. The one in the front. Yeah. Sorry.
The recommend a combination between AngularJS and Bootstrap to talk to CouchDB is a good solution, because I used to use Sencha framework since 4 years, and they are not interested for NoSQL database. Actually, AngularJS used the old Mustache templates that you used to be with Couch app.
Right. So I'm not a front-end developer. I can play one on TV if I have to. I generally recommend sticking with the technology that's most familiar to you and that's most fun to use and actually does solve your problems. So I'm not recommending jumping into a green field when there's no reason. If Sencha is not interested in looking at any NoSQL databases, that's kind of weird. Maybe work on that. We're using Couch and Angular and Bootstrap in a client project. It works very well, but I'm not the one to, I didn't set up, I only work in it, I didn't do the setup, so I couldn't comment on whether it's really good, but I know people are doing it. I'm happy to refer you to other people who have more insights, like Sven over there. All right.
Okay, another question?
Yeah, there was one more.
Okay.
That's the last question.
It was my part to say that.
Sorry.
Yes, so CouchDB 2.0 suggests that it's backward incompatible. Is it? And how hard is it to migrate from 1 point something to 2.0?
Funny that you mentioned that. This is a bit of an in-joke for the developers, where we're breaking the major version, we're increasing the major version number. That means we can break compatibility. That means everybody goes in, can we fix all our pet issues that we have with CouchDB? And then we have CouchDB 3000 and nobody upgrades. I'm kind of trying to keep everyone to the, there are some changes that we have to make to accommodate cluster, but CouchDB was designed from the ground up to become a clustered solution. There's only very few things that I have to change. I think the biggest one is that the sequence IDs and the changes feed aren't integers anymore, but just amorphous blobs or opaque blobs or strings that you just pass around. There's no semantic ordering in there, or there is, but it's not as obvious as in integers. That's the biggest, I think, interface change that we have. The main idea is that the clustered interface for Apache for CouchDB 2.0 will be mostly 99% be compatible with existing software, so that you can have a very easy time upgrading your software to new CouchDB. Upgrading the software itself from 1 to 2, we haven't figured out how to do that yet, as probably one of the options will be not allowing it to be in place. So you have to install CouchDB 2.0, next to CouchDB 1.0, replicate your data over, and then throw away 1.0. That will always be an option, but maybe we can make it easier, but we don't know yet. If you want to talk about that, let's make a workshop and figure it out. So aside from very few changes, we're trying to be as compatible as possible to get as many people over with the least fraction possible. And then we fix all the other stuff in later releases.
Jan, thank you very much.
Thanks.